Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access. My name's Rob, and welcome back to the Tuesday Checklist, our weekly list feature we basically make just so we've got an excuse to sit down and talk about games for a bit. This week we've been playing lots of Far Cry 5 and having an absolute blast. It's a brilliant open world, do what you like 'em up, that puts the emphasis firmly on big, stupid fun. With that in mind, we got to thinking about some of the craziest random things that have happened to us over the years in open world games. Dave's up first with this wonderful anecdote from Far Cry 3.
Well, I mean, obviously there's a million crazy things that have happened to me in open world games, but since we're thinking about Far Cry 5 this week, I've thought of a Far Cry 3 moment because that makes sense. And also I think Far Cry 5 is probably the most like Far Cry 3 of all the Far Cries. And that's a lot of Far Cries for one sentence.
What happened, Dave?
This is actually something that you guys were part of, and I don't know if you will remember because it was years ago. I think it was 2012, and we were talking on the channel when the channel had sort of very recently started about our games of the year. And my game of the year that year was Far Cry 3, and we decided that we'd make some videos about it. So I played Far Cry 3 with you guys whilst you watched, and I told you why it was a really good game, in case you didn't know. And Nath actually didn't know, because as far as I'm aware, he still has never played Far Cry 3. Am I right?
I don't know. No, not very long, no.
Right, mad. Well, you were still, fawning over Journey and stuff, whilst I was shooting boars. And so I wanted to show you why Far Cry 3 was so good. So we just played a section, and I went up a radio tower, and I thought I'll end by taking down an outpost, which I've already explained.
It's your favourite thing
It's
to
my
do.
favourite thing to do, and I especially like to do it stealthily. So we kind of scoped it out, and straight away it was actually quite a hard outpost. It was like, oh, I wish I'd actually picked one. But this way, it had like at least 8 guys to start with, which seemed like a number. And you guys being the worst backseat gamers were kind of pressuring me to get on with it. You were actually the worst, Nate. You were like, just get on with it. And I was trying to be all stealthy, and I used the camera, and I was like marking people and like tagging people. I was like, what can I look for? Look for where's the alarm? Where's the barrel? And as always happens in these situations, I got pressured into just hurrying along. But it was also partly my fault. I thought I'd start out by taking out the alarm, which is a good place to start, because even when people realise what's going on, then they can't call for reinforcements. And as I remember it, I was aiming at the alarm, and then at the last minute I was like, or I could just shoot this guy. And so I shot a guy, and instantly everyone's like, what? People don't just die, like this is bad, something bad's happened. We should press the alarm. And I'm like trying to oh God, stop. And I shot the alarm, but it was too late. Anyway, all like kind of hell breaks loose, and it was quite a hard outpost. These guys had Molotovs that they were throwing at me. I was like, just run away. I had a little pistol, which really annoyed you guys, rather than an automatic weapon. And that was very ineffective. I was getting burnt, I was getting shot. I was macheting some people, but I managed to thin it all out, and at the end I realised that in a cage there was an animal. I wasn't sure what it was, but I just knew that animals would help me in this situation. It turned out to be a leopard called Steve. I don't know that he was called Steve, but I named him Steve, and I released him, and he did.
Steve has been released.
Steve was released. The problem with Steve was he didn't immediately recognise that I had freed him. So at first it looked like he might attack me, and then maybe this is the problem. I shot him a little bit.
Right. I think as soon as you do that, Dave.
I mean, he was angry, but also, I mean, he's a wild animal. I'm sure that you can just be near them in Far Cry 3, and you'll get attacked. But I shot him a little bit, which I do regret. But he went about and he finished off the last guys for me, and in fact the very last thing that happened was I think Steve was getting attacked by the last mercenary, and I shot him through the fence, and I was like, no Steve, leave Steve alone. And then you get the you've captured the outpost thing, and he gets swings out, and it's like, yeah, well done, and your friends turn up in the jeeps, and they're like, yeah, new outpost, come on. And that was the end of our video, where I was like, so there you go, Far Cry 3 is my game of the year, and I'm sort of looking around at the trees or whatever, and then out of nowhere, the camera just gets swung around, and Steve is there, and just Steve's angry. You shot Steve. And Steve just attacks me. And amazingly, because it's instant when you take down an outpost or your friends arrive, there was like 8 of my guys who were suddenly like, kill Steve! And I'm like punching Steve. And Steve, sadly, is now a rug in that outpost. But happy memories. I love that. It was a series of mistakes that ended up in. I mean, it's just why Far Cry is so great. Like all those kind of like systems just coming together to make a really thing that I can remember really vividly even today. And we also have it captured. Yay!
So my story is about maybe not the craziest thing that's ever happened to me in an open world game, but probably the first time I realised the crazy possibilities of open world games.
That's not the title of this
Yeah,
video.
that's wrong.
Well, this is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. I can't believe it. Dave said exactly the same. This is GTA 3. And we used to play it at university collectively, so it wasn't my machine, wasn't my copy of the game, wasn't even me playing this.
I heard the tales of you bullying your
Bullying's a
mates.
big word. And there was only one guy. It was his PlayStation. So we used to use his room in the end. He had a nice room, to be fair, in our shared house. And the PlayStation 2 was in there, so we'd like go in there, and at any given point of the day, one of the 6 of us would probably, in any 24-hour period, be playing GTA. And what we just unlocked everything, and then you just kind of try and create mayhem in the world. And I remember, like, when something happened, there would just be like a call, you know, like, you just hear the noise. Something's happening in Liberty City. Let's go.
What's happening?
And then we'd all rush upstairs, you know, like stop whatever we're doing, cooking, work, watching Sky Sports more likely, and then we go upstairs. And one day I heard my housemate from Wolverhampton, he was just cackling and like he just had this like mad laughter. And a friend of mine, Matt Elliott, who also works in games, spoken about him before on here, just kind of shouting down, "Kelly's made it rain blood." We were like, what the hell's happened? So I went upstairs and Matt Kelly's there. He's playing the game. Most of my housemates were actually called Matt. And he's in the middle island of GTA 3, and he's just on I guess murder spree is what you'd call it, but you know, just trying to get the.
Familiar with these?
Was it a 4-star? 4-star, 5-star?
This was a 5-star.
Wow.
You know, you've unlocked by that point where you get the tank from. You've understood the power of just driving a bus, almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
Once we watched an episode of America's like craziest police chases or whatever it's called, where someone actually got a bus. They are basically unstoppable. The realism is fantastic. And what he had like, so it was just, you know, a stress reliever. You'd go, I've got, you know, 20 minutes, what shall I do? I will just cause as much destruction in GTA 3 as possible. And he was in the kind of the area which is to real New York, like Central Park.
Right.
And there's a kind of an overpass up there. And I don't know, to be honest, we struggled to recreate this, but I saw it with my own eyes. He had caused so much mayhem that the traffic on the overpass above the park was so full of police, like, you know what they're like? They're like animals. They just want to get you. When you've got like a 5-star rating, the cars are like smashing into other cars. Doesn't matter about the geography. And they were like on this overpass, just crushing civilians, crushing other cars, crushing everything. And the blood was just washing down from the overpass. And he was underneath in the park, and it looked like it was raining blood. We were like, what? It took us ages to work out what was happening. It's like, you've been so evil in this game that like a biblical act is taking place. Like, what on earth is happening?
Wow.
But yeah, but looking at it, it was probably just the police accidentally murdering tons of civilians.
Okay, so mine isn't captured. So use your imagination. Work with me on this one. I'm going to talk about Assassin's Creed Origins,
Okay.
which is a brilliant game.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying playing it. I'm playing it at the moment, so this is a recent story. It's far too big to play, and I'll never see all of it. All right, the map's just massive, which is a good thing. But to get around this, they give you the camel,
Yeah.
who has no name.
True.
I have referred to him as Barney a few times while playing this game.
That's what we will call him.
Yeah.
So me and Barney the camel going on our adventures, and there was one mission, it's a story mission, where you meet this guy and he says, yes, I'll help you if you go and assassinate this man. Have some associates. So I had this conversation with this guy, got on my camel, and there's like 3 other guys that have got on horses with me as well.
Right.
And what you can do in Origins is if you press X, your camel just like locks to the road and sort of drives itself. If you press triangle as well, it goes towards the target.
Right, yeah.
So it heads in that direction. So me and these 3 other horses, I'm on the camel, Barney, obviously, so just tear across the map. It's maybe like 1,000 meters away, maybe a bit more. And when you get to an area that you have to be stealthy in Origins, you get the red bar come up at the top of the screen.
Yeah.
And Bayek says something like, I must be cautious. But because of the velocity of the camel and the 4 horses, we went straight past that marker. And he said, I must be cautious. But the camel's going at full speed, and suddenly I'm in this valley filled with like 30 guards, and they've all seen me. My 3 associates have just been shot, and they're all dead instantly.
Oh,
And the camel is just racing towards the marker, which just happens to be right at the back of this area. And he gets there, and I'm on the camel, and I'm just going to die straight away. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. So I get off of Barney.
Yeah.
And I'm running up the walls and all across the top, and all the guards are chasing after me. The alarm bells have been like let go. The bounty hunters are turning up. You know, the people that hunt you. So the number of guards has doubled since I've been there. And if you break line of sight, they just stop looking for you eventually.
Right.
So I was running all around the top walls, jumped into like this bush right in the middle of the place. They couldn't see me. But then all the guards kind of stop looking for you, and they just stand around.
Yeah.
So now I'm hiding in a bush, surrounded by all these guards, that
God.
as soon as I get out, they're just definitely going to kill me.
Yeah.
And I thought that the quickest way out would be to get Barney back involved. So I summoned Barney, who just sort of like trots around the corner. Nobody cares that he's there.
Whistling.
No one cares that Barney's turned up in this heavily fortified area because no one's riding him.
Camels. They're like the pigeons of ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
Isn't it? That's the thing. It's everywhere.
I was sort of a bit
Camels.
frustrated that because camels can spit in real life, can't they?
Yeah.
It'd be great if I could just train him to just spit at the guards
Yeah.
and be blind them a bit so I could make my way out. So anyway, I got onto Barney, straight out of the bush onto Barney, back out the main entrance. Yeah, there are many guards here, and there was just all these arrows and fire going on. The alarm started again. I rode past the 3 dead bodies of my associates, and I had just had to restart the mission because I didn't have any friends left.
Oh no.
So that's just me not being very cautious and letting Barney just make things really bad for me.
So one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me in an open world game was when I was playing Skyrim, and lots of crazy things happen in Skyrim. It's one of those perfect games where you could just pick a direction and walk in it, and if you walk in that direction for half an hour, a bunch of crazy stuff will happen. But I was trying to capture something very specifically for a Friday feature. I think it was a Friday feature about collectibles or something, and I was trying to go and find some Nirnroot, which I don't know if you know, is like a very rare, desired plant that can be used in lots of alchemy type things. You can make a bunch of potions with it. I think in Oblivion someone asked you to go and collect 10 Nirnroots. So basically you're always on the lookout for Nirnroots. It's gonna get crazy, man. So I was out looking for some Nirnroot to capture. And I remembered that there is a farm in Skyrim. There's one farmer in Skyrim who's famous for being the only farmer who can grow Nirnroot, and she's got like the secret recipe for growing it. So I tracked down that farm and was speaking to this farmer, and like they do in Skyrim, all of a sudden this dragon just appears out of just nowhere. A blood dragon. And in Skyrim, when a dragon appears, everyone just goes mental. Like the guards are there, just not mental in a, oh my god, it's a dragon, let's run away. All the villagers just start getting out their knives, anything they've got. And so I'm just talking to Sarethi on her farm, I think that's what her name is. And the conversation goes from just, I'm the only person in Skyrim who's able to make Nirnroot, don't you know? And then just, the dragon comes, Sarethi's just like, oh my god! What in Oblivion is that?
Protect the Nirn!
Yeah, protect the Nirnroot! Like this dragon just does its landing animation, like, oh! I'm here at the Nirnroot farm. This little dark elf she is just runs up. She's got a little knife and it just opens its mouth. There's maybe like 1 foot away, just fire just engulfs her, and she's still there doing her little flailing knife animation. And the fire doesn't quite kill her, so then the dragon just picks her up in its mouth and shakes her like a dog shaking a bone, and just casts her off to one side. It's just like, my Nernroot farm! And then just a bunch of guards come, and we all have a massive fight with the dragon. I don't think anyone else dies. We managed to kill the dragon, and I absorb its soul. Because I'm the dragonborn. And everything calms down, and I'm like, oh my god, where's Serethi? Where's she gone? Maybe she survived, and she's just there, her corpse, just spread-eagled on the floor. And so what I did was I looted her body and stole all of her jewellery.
Did she have Nernroot on her?
She didn't have Nernroot on her, no. But there was a big old field of Nernroot, right. So I went and picked that.
Well, I like the idea that we haven't recorded the gameplay for this yet, and we won't be able to recreate it. So it'll just be some nice shots of the Central Park area.
Just some cinematic camera.
Yeah. Imagine.
And people have to believe that this was real. This was probably the highlight of my university.
Can you recreate it at home? Let us know.
Yeah, if you do, if you can, guys. Yeah.
Please. I like what you said about the police. Just when you get to 5 stars, nothing, just the red mist descends.
Yeah.
I had a bit like that in San Andreas once, where I'd stolen a helicopter and I got to 5-star rating, and I managed to get to this bit in the air where I was just hovering, and it was by a cliff, and SWAT cars were just driving off the cliff one at a time, trying to get me. There's a pile of them down at the bottom of this cliff, just
they're like zombies.
And
they're just
spawning police cars just driving off the edge of this cliff. It was unbelievable.
Oh, we're gonna have to try and capture that as well now, Rob. We've got to stop saying cool things that happen in GTA.
And that's it.
Yeah, no more.
Yes, good point. We don't want to be giving ourselves any more work. God, we might have to spend the day playing GTA San Andreas. How awful. Let us know about your crazy open world stories in the comments. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and join us again next week for another Tuesday checklist.